You were here and heard the public speech from the representative of RES.
Yes.
You heard Councilman Revolt. So where exactly do we stand, we being North Canton government, in this particular situation? Today, I think, was the deadline for RFQs to be submitted. So going forward, is RES still going to be in the picture, or is North Canton going to be moving in a different direction?
That's what we're going to make a determination on. So really what we have is that back in 2009, there was an operator that was operating the golf course, and he was operating it under what we call a triple net lease. And that means that they're responsible for all the capital improvements on the golf course, capital improvements on the building itself, and it's almost as if they would own the property. So they're making all of those improvements. And at the same time, what they get is an opportunity in order to generate revenue by managing the golf course. For us giving the golf course and the land to them to use to manage, they were paying us an agreement, a financial agreement. And that amount, it started out a larger amount, and then over time there were adjustments that were made. But effectively, what's happened is they haven't been able to keep up with all the payments. And then there was a question as far as what was considered a capital improvement. Is painting and carpeting considered a capital improvement, or is the irrigation and drainage for the golf course a capital improvement? So in some cases what the city did is we actually stepped in and we made repairs to the parking lot. We made repairs to the roof because it was apparent that they were not able to keep up with the capital improvements in the respect that would be as required by the city. So now what we have is that because they have had difficulty making those payments, the city had to intervene and put a stop to the contract. Now, the issues that we've got to be careful to address is that they do have golf leagues, they do have weddings, they do have other public events, so we want to make sure that whatever decision we decide to do, can they move ahead and make the required payments that the city needs for us to continue with the contract? That would be one thing that we could consider. The other thing is if they're not able to do that, to what extent will they be able to do that? And then if they're not, what decision would the city, what decision would we make? Would we go with another operator? And so what we did is that we sent out an RFQ, or a request for an RFP, a request for proposals, or a request for qualifications. So we're looking at golf managers that have experience, that can run the golf course and say, okay, city, you give us this asset, which is like 105 acres of a golf course and a beautiful clubhouse, we will manage it for you, and this is what we would charge, and this is what we would potentially pay the city. So that's what we're looking at right now. And I'm not sure all the companies that have put in their qualifications.
Did you have a rough number?
I think there was 4. Can't be how many were there? 4. So there are 4 companies that put in a proposal.
Do you remember any of them?
I can get you those names.
Okay.
Yeah. I know Casper Golf was one. And
how about Skyland Pines? I was told by.
Well, I believe that the Petros put in one, and I didn't get a chance to look at it myself. But I think it's good. That we've got experienced companies that are willing to come in and run Arrowhead for us. Because one of the other things to keep in mind is when we look at it, we say that the city is owed money, okay? And that's per the terms of the agreement. But on the positive end, the city has not had to spend any money cutting or maintaining the grass and the facility. We have made capital improvements, again, like the parking lot and so forth. That was just like a safety issue, and clearly they did not have the resources.
in order to provide that. So that's where we intervene. So we've got to do a thorough assessment of where we're at, do a review, which we've done that. We've hired an engineer to let us know if we were to bring this up to a perfect golf course and a clubhouse, what would be required.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that number, which was a little over $3 million.
Yes.
It's not necessarily equated to the failure of the current lessee to keep up with the capital improvements obligation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that, well, clearly they didn't meet the terms of the agreement that were set forth. But I think what it is that you also have to be realistic and consider the fact that, it's almost as if somebody is going to, rent out your house. And they agree to rent out the house, but they say, well, if the roof needs to be replaced, we'll replace it. If the driveway needs to be replaced, we'll replace it. If the furnace needs to be replaced, we'll replace that. Or the hot water tank, we'll replace that. Now, typically when somebody's under a triple net lease, they're looking at a 20-year agreement or a 30-year agreement. They're looking at longer terms so that if they put in that investment, that capital improvement, then they have an opportunity to recoup that investment. Now, in this
What's
case,
the time period of this?
yeah, so we were less than 5 years.
Okay.
So then it really, even though it was agreed upon, looking back on it in retrospect, there really was no incentive financially for those capital improvements, those larger capital improvements to be made. So I think that when the city entered into it, it was certainly promising for us. Hey, we have a contract and they're willing to pay us a monthly fee, which is just over $80,000 a month, which is a good thing. There's no expense to the golf course maintenance. So, clearly we thought that was a positive. And then even when they were struggling to make the payments, the good thing is the city was still getting a rent check. And it's not like you can just make a decision in the middle of July and say, wow, things aren't being met. Let's just evict the present owners for not meeting 100% of the terms, because there's still weddings that are taking place. There are still other events that are taking place. There's still golf clubs. There's still pool memberships. So that's where it's not something that the city can simply extract themselves from. And clearly we've noted over time that there has been a struggle to meet the terms of those agreements.
Well, if the city moves on to someone else to manage, how will you deal with the obligations of the current lessee?
Yeah, that's a good question, which I don't have an answer to, because what we'll do is, obviously the city wants to be able to collect what is due to us, but then, we just have to make an assessment and see, what are they willing to do, what are they able to do, and then also take a look at the proposals that were turned in, But I think overall, what's good about this is that we still have a beautiful 105-acre golf course. We've got a beautiful clubhouse. It really is the diamond in the rough in the city. It's right in the middle of the heart of the city. Beautiful, beautiful location. And then at the same time, we've got to be realistic, because you look at the golf course that was sold over in Alliance. They sold it at a Kiko auction for just over $400,000. And I think a lot of people were really surprised by how low the bid was. I think that there was an expectation that there would be multi-millions of dollars.
And that could have something to do with the overall decline of public golf courses in America.
Yes. Yeah, we've clearly seen that the participation in golf, even with the younger generation coming up through, it's not as high. And so that's where I'm sure that in general has had an impact on the profitability of golf courses, and I think it's time for anybody that owns a golf course, whether it's a private golf course or a city, you got to look at what your competition is, and what's going to be most profitable, because a golf operation is not an inexpensive proposition. But I think that the good thing is we've got our administrator in here and our finance director and our law director, and what we will do is we will have a thorough assessment and a thorough review of the contract, the terms of the agreement, what is required to bring the property up to the specifications that the city would find acceptable, and we want to preserve our asset. But then at the
the same time, if we can generate money off of that on a monthly basis, that would be even better.
Well, on March 8th of this year, the city of North Canton, under the signature of your chief administrator, submitted a letter to R&S Properties Incorporated. It's titled Breach of Lease Agreement / Notice to Cure.
Yes.
So all the conversation we've had during this interview, is it still an open question whether or not R&S is going to be continuing, or is that just not in the cards?
Well, I think, again, it's how they respond to it. We've got to be able to collect the lease payments that are due to the city, and that's over $250,000. And so,
and this is not even bringing into the equation the alleged failure to keep up with the obligation on capital improvements. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct.
Right.
And I think that really when I look at it, again, typically when you have like a triple net lease, which was clearly, a benefit to the city, that was a good thing. But now what we ran into was a compliance issue. That the city negotiated such a good contract, but then, it's only as good as the compliance that you get with the tenant. And so then the next question is, and I think we'll have a better idea now, what can the city get with other companies? Is there a better opportunity for the city? How would we realign the relationship between the tenant and the course, and how they utilize that? Do we use it in a full 18-hole golf course? Could it be a 9-hole golf course? Could it be used as a restaurant? What different options are out there? That's what we're looking for. Our overall mission and goal, because there's a lot of different methods that we can employ to manage the Arrowhead Country Club, which the city owns. But our goal is to make sure that we have a cost-efficient and effective way to manage the 105-acre golf course that we presently own.
In the notice to cure, the figure $80,000 was cited as an annual capital improvement standard. Would it be fair to say R&S has been lessing now for about 10 years, that $880,000 more or less should have been put into capital improvements? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that was the expectation, absolutely. And I think one of the disputes is, what is considered a capital improvement? And you might say, if you go and replace the carpeting, is that a capital improvement? If you go and replace the irrigation system for the golf course, is that a capital improvement? And so I think that's one of the things that we have to review, and that's what the attorneys look at. And so obviously, we're going to be looking out for the best interest of the city. And but in no way do we want to say, myself personally, have anything negative to say about Rob and Scott, who have, I believe that their intentions have been good and they've tried to do the best that they can. But at the same time, they were coming up short. And again, I think it's due to the market. Clearly, the golf course market is changing. And then I also think the nature of the contract. I don't think that we're going to be getting into a triple net lease in the future. You're not going to have a management company that is going to come in and say that, we are going to take care of all the capital improvements for the property, unless you had like a 20 or 30-year lease, which we're not going to do. So I think we've learned from this. I think there's a lot that the city has learned from this, and that's the whole reason we contracted it out, is because the city doesn't have any experience running a golf course. We don't have city employees that are trained or licensed to manage a golf course. Same thing with our swimming pool. The city has managed a swimming pool for years, and I think one of the best decisions that we made is when we contracted with the YMCA. The YMCA they have a level of expertise that is unsurpassed by any municipality. I mean, that's what they specialize in. They specialize in pools, safety programs, providing workout centers and so forth. So that's been a great relationship, and that's what we're looking to do, is really assess and then refine the relationship that we have with whoever the manager of the golf course is.
So you're looking And this is not to foreclose the possibility that RNS will be back. But if you do move on, you're looking for folks who have been successful in actually managing golf courses.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not something that, if somebody wakes up and says, gosh, I think I'd like to start managing a golf course, even if they had the money to do it, we want more than just the financial resources. We need to see the level of expertise. So it would be a combination of that, company or individuals that have the financial resources, but then also have the expertise. Because we've learned that you could have a level of expertise, but maybe not the resources, or vice versa. So this is the second lease that we've had. We had Kevin Larissa, who would lease the property in the beginning, and it worked out very well, but then he decided that it really wasn't going to be profitable for him. And then you had RNS come through, and they assumed that same agreement, which of course the city was okay with it. We felt that it was on our end, but then really what we've ran into over the past 9 years is, a compliance issue. So it's almost like somebody saying, hey, give us another opportunity, we'll get the rent, and you keep working with it. But then it just came to the point where the accumulation of the money that was owed, and then also the question of the capital improvements that needed to be made, that's really what we had to step in and just address it.
In hindsight, of course, hindsight's always 20/20 vision. Did North Canton pay too much money to buy this golf course?
Oh boy, I'd always like to buy things much lower, than what you actually pay for it. I mean, so do I think that the city paid too much? I mean, I always think that I pay too much for most everything. But you try to get the lowest price that you possibly can. But again, I think it's you make decisions at a particular time, and to get 105 acres of a beautiful golf course at the time, I think it was $4.3 million, and I was the administrator at the time. I thought that it was really a very positive move that the council made at that time.
So you were here, but just in a different capacity.
Yeah, I was the administrator, and then I had actually orchestrated the first agreement with an attorney that specialized in lease agreements, and so they came in and gave us one of the things that they first told us was that you do not, as a city, want to manage the golf course if you have no experience. So it just became really clear that if you don't have expertise or experience in a particular area, and also with a cash business, it is not an easy thing to do. I mean, it was a struggle for the city to manage the swimming pool, because we were doing it on a limited basis. When we turned it over to the Y, then established a contract with them, was the best move that we made as far as the pool. Now we know that all of the safety policies and procedures that the YMCA brings, that same level of expertise is now brought to the North Canton pool. And so I think that there's, our expectations, what we expect, and if those aren't, able to be met, which clearly in this case we're not having all the terms and conditions of the agreement met, and what we expected from that agreement are not being met. So then we have to, we've got to take action. And it's not a personal thing, because there's a lot of people that really appreciated the service that the company has provided over the past 10 years, which we appreciate. But at the same time, we've got to make sure in government we have a process, and we've got to make sure all the requirements are met and meet all the compliance issues. And so we go through the process, and we'll take a look at what the proposals are from the other companies, or what the qualifications are, and any of the proposals that they may have submitted, and then we make a decision.
When you talk, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
Taking action, might it entail litigation to get past this point?
I hope not. I don't like to go. You don't like to go through litigation if you don't have to. If you can find agreement, whether it's with a business or with residents, or it's always best to do that. It's always best, I believe, to try to find that place of agreement. And if you can do that, then it's certainly better than having costly litigation. But in some cases, you're not able to avoid it. So
what's your best estimate of this situation? You think it's going to be resolved short of litigation?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I mean, I hope that it is. I hope that we do resolve it short of litigation. You know, there's just it's not something that you're eager to do. I don't think anybody ever wants to go to court. It's usually if somebody feels that they've been wronged or they haven't been treated fairly. But I think it's always better to sit down and talk with the parties and try to find that place of agreement first. And even the judges, they encourage that too, to go through, a settlement if possible, rather than going to court.
Has RNS in their discussions with North Canton officials, just from the owner's standpoint or through legal counsel, indicated at all that they might be wanting to litigate this question?
Yeah, I have not, been involved in those conversations. And even if I was, I probably still wouldn't answer the question, just because if there is any potential litigation, you just don't want to, it's best not to comment on that. But that hasn't been brought up today.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor David Help.